It's 2 p.m. That is the time we have scheduled for a work session. This is Tuesday, August 8th, 2023 at 2 p.m. in the Board of Supervisors Executive Conference Room, 1415 Melody Lane, Building G. Any item on this agenda is open for discussion. We have the supervisors here, District 1.
Crosby is here.
District 2.
English is present.
And Supervisor Judd is here representing District 3. Members of the public may also attend this meeting via Microsoft Teams computer or mobile app or via phone by calling 602-609-7513 or 888-680-6714. Conference ID 984191726#. If you have trouble accessing this meeting remotely, call 520-532-9200 for direction. Work sessions are a time for county staff to inform and discuss agenda items with Board of Supervisors, and public comments will not be taken. As far as introductions, just to introduce yourself briefly, but we'll start with you and you don't have to introduce yourself. Jackie Watkins is going to be our speaker today, Engineering and Natural Resources Director. And we're going to discuss what she does, engineering, floodplain, and those two things basically. So right ahead.
First part is the engineering division. This last quarter, we did complete our special event permit, and it is live on CitizenServe and being used. And it's for the people that are doing bicycle races, 5Ks, half marathons. And so that's going good and helping the process. We completed the box culvert on John Mill Trail, milepost 8.5. That's this box culvert here. You can see the wing walls and the new box culvert. We completed the nighttime sign inspections. We have to inspect all the signs in the county every year to make sure that they have retroreflectivity. We awarded grants, and we had the survey flights. We did get the survey flight on Pomerine done, Cochise Stronghold, on Frontier, and Elfrida. And some of those flights were for people complaining about somebody diverting water. So those were flights. And then if they are diverting water and we find out, then we will send them a violation letter. And the HERF, to discuss what the HERF fund is, everyone pays 18 cents a gallon, so it's not a percentage of the cost of the gas. It's just an 18-cent flat tax rate. And that was set in 1990. There's other states that have increased their gas tax, but Arizona hasn't. And of that 18 cents, Cochise, the counties, all the counties in the state get 19% of that 18 cents. So the counties distributed is 3.42 cents a gallon. And of that, Cochise County receives 0.12 cents. So less than a penny a gallon comes to Cochise County. So if a person drives 1,500 miles a year, and they have a car that gets 30 gallons a mile, they would be buying 50 gallons of gas a month. And for 50 gallons of gas at 18 cents a gallon is $9 a month, or $108 per year that they would pay into HERF. Of that, 12 cents, 0.12 cents a gallon, so the citizen would pay 6 cents per month, or 72 cents per year, that would come to Cochise County. Now, if it was only the gas tax we were getting from the county residents, our budget wouldn't be very much. But we get this from the whole state of Arizona. And the gas tax is distributed on population and gas sold in the county. So we're receiving more back from HERF funds, the county, than we would pay in as a county, the citizens pay in.
So clarify for me, I think that this is accurate, but I'm not absolutely sure. I know the county doesn't have to pay gas tax, right?
Do you guys pay gas tax on the fuel? We pay. They do pay.
Okay, does the state pay gas tax? Because a lot of organizations, like, does the Border Patrol pay gas tax?
Yes, they would be buying gas from gas stations, and they pay gas tax.
Fort Huachuca, do they pay gas tax?
I believe they do.
And
Does it up there on?
I don't know. They do.
It's fuel gas tax, yes.
Because there was one point in time when none of these agencies paid gas tax.
We paid full gas tax on the number I had with fuel burn was 326,000 gallons. We paid gas tax.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So that's, what And then I have so on roads, the heavier the truck, the more damage and stress it's doing to the road. So these are federal highway classifications for vehicles, and class 1 through 5 is light vehicles, and then class 6 through 13 is heavy vehicles. So a truck, class 9 here, this class 9 truck, the class 9 truck does the same amount of stress and damage to the road, to the base, as 4,000 cars. So the roads that we have that have heavy truck traffic, those are the roads that will fall apart sooner, depending on the increase of truck traffic. And with the increase of the International Port of Entry in Douglas, that's going to increase truck traffic we have on Davis Road. So this is the truck, and this is 4,000 vehicles.
Not 2,500.
Not 2,500, there's 4,000. Alberto promised me that there's 4,000. I did not count them. So truck traffic, the higher volume roads that we have that have truck traffic on it is Davis Road, Fort Grant, Kansas Settlement, and then the side roads there would be Shelton and Bell because of the dairy, and then Dragoon Road, Washington Avenue, and 7th Street over in Sierra Vista. And of that, Davis Road has an ADT amount of traffic that's on the road daily. It's about 1,800 cars, and Davis Road has 80 trucks a day. So that is about like 320,000 cars comparison. And with the new port of entry going in, that will probably double or triple within the next 10 years, 10 to 15 years. And that project is on schedule. It will be opened in 2028. At this point, it's not behind schedule. The port is, and so that we will have increase in traffic within 10 years.
Will eastbound would probably use Highway 80 when they come from internationally? Would they use Highway 80 and go east?
Well, if you're a truck driver, you're going to want to go Davis Road because you're not going to want to climb that road, that hill up into Bisbee on 80. Eastbound, correct. Eastbound
Would go on 80 and go east.
And they would go east.
And then what about 191? Using 191?
They'll still use 191, but there's a lot of truck traffic that's on Davis.
Okay.
Not a
Still
lot.
use
But they'll still use Davis.
Yeah, but it won't take the whole.
It won't take everything that's coming. No.
Okay.
Because they anticipate.
And we don't worry about 191 or 80. Those are state.
Those are state highways.
Yeah. Okay. So you're.
But they do anticipate truck traffic to increase coming from Nogales and El Paso because of the facilities they'll have at this new port of entry for inspecting the vehicles, the trucks that are coming from Mexico. Fort Grant, the traffic on that is about 3,000 cars at the south end, around 1,500 at the north end, and they have about 100 trucks at the south end and 50 to 60 at the north end. Kansas Settlement Road typically has around 2,000 vehicles a day. When there's harvesting going on, like we did traffic counts this summer, and on a Monday there was 1,000 trucks. Typically during their harvest there's about 500 trucks that are going Kansas Settlement to Shelton and to Bell Ranch. The traffic on Bell Ranch is normally about 100 cars a day, 200 cars a day, unless they're harvesting. Dragoon Road has a traffic count of 1,400 and there's about 30 trucks. Washington Avenue, that's in Douglas, it's around 2,000 cars a day and they have about 20 trucks, but that is the designated truck route in the city of Douglas. So they don't want them going down G Avenue and stuff, so that it's signed to be their truck route is Washington. And then the highest traffic count in the county for County Road is 7th Street and Sierra Vista. So there's parts of 7th Street and Sierra Vista that we count is county that is on the west half of the road. There's a little section south of Fry and a little section north of Fry. And then for roads that do not have a lot of truck traffic, Motion Road. So Motion Road has about 4,000 cars at the north end and 1,500 at the south end when it hits Hereford. NACO Highway is about 2,000 cars a day. Charleston Road's about 2,200. Hereford Road's about 3,700. by the Highway 92 and about 600 on the east end. It really drops off after Molson Road. Ocotillo is about 900 cars, Pomerine's around 2,000, and Double Adobe's about 1,000. So those are the higher traffic count roads that we have in the county. We are updating our neighborhood traffic management program. We did a study on San Javier and Sierra Vista, but the temporary speed tables that were used, we bought 20 years ago, so they're deteriorating. And they've deteriorated. We put them out there, and some of the residents thought it was fun to just go on top of them and spin their wheels, and that was damaging them because they're so old. So we did have to pick those up. Ops picked those up. And now the applicant doesn't want to complete that study because people were just going over the speed humps to see how fast they can go over the speed humps. But we are going to update our policy. It's in a draft form now. We'll be bringing that at a work session to the board because the last time that was done was in 2003. And some of the industry has changed since then, so we will be updating that policy. Molson Road, we have $1 million for design from Sierra Vista MPO. It's probably going to cost more than that. And we're working with ADOT to see if that's going to be in-house or HERF exchange. We're still negotiating that. And part of that project will be to get our NEPA clearance. And once we have our NEPA clearance completed, then the county we will hire a consultant and start obtaining the additional right-of-way that we need. It's not that it will be 100-foot wide right-of-way, but there's certain parcels in there that we don't have perfected right-of-way, so we will be getting that right-of-way. And Davis Road is multiple projects. We have the RAISE grant to do from Highway 80 to Central Highway, that's 22 miles, to do a study and get 15% design plans done and get NEPA clearance. Davis Road, we're obtaining a 200-foot right-of-way from 191 all the way to Highway 80. 40 or 50 years from now, that would probably be a divided 4-lane highway. But right now, the first part of it, we will obtain the right-of-way so that we have the property, but we will just design to have a 2-lane road with 6 or 8-foot shoulders. Because of the wide loads that go through there, it will give more room for them to get off the road. And so that will get the study and the NEPA clearance for the rest of the road from 80 to Central. We have it already done from Central to 191. Then Davis Road, mileposts 5 and 13. We have just almost $3 million from Senator Kelly's discretionary funds. That project will be in construction with oversight from ADOT. And the design on that will be to accommodate wide loads and the future widening of the road, not the 4-lane road, but with 8-foot shoulders. And that project to do mileposts 5 and 13 is about $6 million. So we're still trying to go after grants to help pay for the rest of that project. But we do have that. That's in ADOT now. So we will be kicking that project off within the next 6 months. Then Central Highway to 191. That project we're acquiring right away now. We've closed escrow on 1 property. We have 2 more in escrow. We have a total of 11 properties to acquire. And we'll be completing the 100% design so that we can go out and apply for grants to get that project constructed. And this was an oversized load that went through last month. So it's 20 feet wide, almost 18 feet high, 16 feet long. It was 601,000 pounds. That's 300 tons and 20 axles. So when you have a 20-foot wide truck going down a 24-foot paved road, this is the pull truck. This vehicle itself had a push truck, and then they have DPS in front and back. So when they're going down the roads, if you're coming the opposite direction, you have to go off the road. And that's why Davis Road, is the major road in the county, the top priority for vegetation management, only because when these wide loads go through, if the vegetation is real high, people can't see to go off the road. And after rains, people do get stuck in the mud. I mean, they have run people off and they've gotten stuck in the mud.
When they get off of Davis Road, where do they go? Do they just stay?
They go 191 to Davis to 80 through Tombstone. And that right now, because of the bridge that's being constructed on 80 in St. David, they'll go up Highway 82, either up 90 or over to 83 and go up.
Ida.
Okay. And the surveys, we're doing Sands Ranch, the road there. There's some drainage issues. Horseshoe Draw to see how much sediment is in the draw every year before we have to go in there and clean it out. And then we're getting a KER station, which is a continuously operating reference station. And this is for surveys. We have a KER station on top of the IT department building, but it's not functioning, so we want to get that replaced.
What is that?
It's for surveys. It helps when you're going out and you're doing survey for road construction or elevation certificates for floodplain permits. Then the surveyor doesn't have to put up their own base station. They can just radio into the KER station or reference station without having to do that extra step. And it's more precise. It's still talking to all the satellites. But we would also get reference stations. Wilcox put up a reference station this last year, and we're going to go up and help just to get that in the system better. And we want to put one up in Whetstone and Elfrida just so that's easier to do surveys without having extra equipment out there. And it helps the public, and then it will help to get elevation certificates by surveyors for floodplains.
Now we could just get surveyors to come to do the work.
It's probably a shortage.
There is a shortage.
Then the flood control division, still having citizens' concerns on drainage and people diverting water to their property, off of their property. And I'll talk about the floodplain updates, commercial reviews. We're having a lot of commercial reviews with SunZia transmission line and solar developments going throughout the county, and project updates. The floodplain regs. So we had a work session about that, and the board, we will be taking the regs to the board for approval on September 12th. I have had a few people comment, anyone can comment. They can email the floodplain department and with written comments, and we will respond back to those. I had one builder call about asking about the 1 foot elevation that we're requiring for, no matter where you are. And he had built a shop over McNeil, Elfrida area. He says, yeah, he was, miles away from a mapped flood zone because not all areas mapped. Just because it's a zone X or a zone X shaded, that doesn't mean it doesn't get flooded. It's just that it hasn't mapped. Because FEMA's going to map where there's buildings going on, where there's development. And he said he had poured a slab for this shop, a garage, and it almost got flooded. So he's glad of that. And then I did talk to a builder in Sierra Vista. And so we will be rewording how we're saying 1 foot above elevation. So it's not 1 foot above the highest elevation. It's also following the International Residential Code. We want the 1 foot clearance from the flow path of the flood water to the finished elevation of the home, which is in the residential code for most of the buildings. And this is only for residential homes and commercial buildings. This is not for if someone builds a barn or a shop or a garage or a storage shed. This is only for where people are going to be living in. So you can have a 1 foot elevation difference from the flow line, because in the residential code, you have a 6 foot foundation that's above grade. Especially if you have a stucco home. The stucco has to stay above the concrete slab just to protect that stucco. And then from that elevation, you're supposed to slope down over 10 feet, 6 inches, so that you get positive drainage away from the structure. So we're looking for the positive drainage away from the structure to get that elevation so that the homes aren't getting flooded. This last year in Elfrida, last monsoon in Elfrida, there's quite a few homes that got flooded that weren't in a flood zone. And there's homes that are in the future. So today you build a house and you might have 2 or 3 inches flowing across your yard. Well, if there's homes building upstream from you and they have homes and they have yards and they have impermeable surfaces they put in, it's going to increase the flood water that you have on your property. So this is to try to prevent future homes from being flooded. This, isn't retroactive. It's not going to affect the people that haven't built their homes high, but that is what we're doing for the drainage paths around the homes to protect.
Yeah, I think people
Flooding.
have a misconception about that. That you put the slabs are 4 inches, 5 inches, so you only have to build up.
We're talking about 2 inches difference, technically,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Correct.
So because they were already building up 8 inches and then the slab, and so
Yeah, I mean,
it really isn't changing a lot.
it's not
depending
changing a
on-
whole lot, except it's just clarifying it that you need positive drainage away from your house so that your house doesn't get flooded.
And that includes the slope away.
That includes the slope
Okay.
away, and that includes the slope away
Doesn't make
because I had
sense. Shouldn't be any different than what we do standard.
I had a builder in Sierra Vista call that builds a lot of homes over there, and once he understood that, he's like, "Oh yeah, that's fine."
Yeah.
But it was to get clarified, so we will be rewording that paragraph to make that clear, to clarify that.
Good.
And then our community rating system, we will be audited next week, and that's a 5-year cycle for the FEMA community rating system that gives us the 5% decrease on flood insurance. And our FEMA updates for the mapping, Bisbee and St. David, we had the preliminary maps done. Joaquin commented on those. Benson, Huachuca City, Sierra Vista, and Hereford, those have not been, we had preliminary maps 2-3 years ago, so they're redoing those. And then watershed studies
How long do they last?
until you do it again.
Is that typically 10, 20 years?
20 years unless there's a lot of development. And, or usually it's development, like when Pomerene, Pomerene had a flood study done in, I think it was 2006. Well, people had bought property up there before that weren't in the flood zone. It's because it was a farm before that, so there was no reason to map that. So some people buy today and they're not in a flood zone. Well, they're still in a flood zone. It's not a mapped flood zone. So we have not heard back from our BRIC grant that we're trying to get for the Wilcox Basin to do a watershed study. We have requested from the Corps of Engineers to do a watershed study in Rucker Canyon. So that would be the first step to do a watershed study to help with the flooding that we had in Elfrida. And then we also requested to get one done in St. David for the alluvial fan flooding. That's on the west side of the San Pedro. So alluvial fan flooding, it's not a defined path. One storm event is going to have the water flowing on the north side of your house. The next storm that comes through, it might be flowing on the south. It's just the way the terrain is, and it's very sandy soil. So we want to get that mapped and some more information on that so that when people do come in, we can give them more information on how they should build their home. And then,
Is the west, that's not in the town of St.
no,
David?
St. David is
That's
so
on the
in
other side of
St.
the
David,
river
we're
from
getting the
St.
FEMA map done, correct.
Oh,
this is on the
yeah.
other side of the river.
Yeah, there's a lot of homes up there too.
There's more homes being built in there.
Okay.
And then with the new international port of entry that's going in, we're probably going to have to do a watershed study on the west side of Whitewater Draw for the connector road that ADOT will be building to the new international port of entry. There's a lot of flooding in that area, and it's pretty much shallow sheet flooding. And to try to decrease the amount of box culverts that would be required on that road, we could do a watershed study and potentially try to do a retention or detention pond upstream. So that's in the study. We don't know what we're doing, where that one's going yet. It's still in the early stages. And then for our MS4, Municipal Separate Stormwater System, we had an ADQ audit, and we're required now to do sampling and testing. So all those bottles, there's 14 bottles that we have to fill up with rainwater, and that's one sample is those 14 bottles. And you have to collect the sample within 30 minutes of the rain event. So you're out there collecting it when it's raining. Thank you, Joaquin and Penny. When it's raining, and we have 5 spots throughout the county that we have to collect this. And part of our audit is that we have to do more public education, explaining about the contaminants that's in the stormwater, and we will be developing pamphlets also to hand out and send mailers out to the people that live within the MS4 areas.
Who determines the MS4? Is that
ADEQ.
ADEQ?
And our permit fee to ADQ has been $5,000. Now it's $7,135 per year. They were proposing a $12,000 permit fee, so they didn't. We're not paying $12,000, but it does cost us $7,135 a year for our permit from ADQ, and one sample is $800. So to get all those bottles sampled, it's about $800.
So you have to pay
We have to
when
pay.
you turn all these in.
Correct. We pay $800 to a lab in Tucson. So we collect them and then we have to put them on ice and get them up there within 24 hours.
So that's one reason why we don't want it to be really rainy.
Oh, no. I'm not going to say that.
I know that can add up if you had to.
Well, no, because we have to go out and we have to visually check and take a rain,
Same 5 areas all the time.
calculate, or we have rain gauges at all the sites. And if it rains at the one site, you have to wait 72 hours before you could even use that site to collect because the first flush has gone by. Because you have to collect the first flush of the floodwaters.
Oh. Well, it can rain then, just not
Yes.
big flood.
Well, we need rain because to collect those, you can't get air bubbles in them. And so it's kind of hard if it's not flowing very strong to get those full. Yeah, it's pretty a precise process of getting those done. And then Leslie Canyon.
Yeah, Leslie Canyons, they're still working on the hydraulic analysis. The picture that you see up here is the embankment or the dam that AEWR is requesting that it get removed. So we can use this as we're using the proposal is to design it so that way we can maximize the containment area so we can slow the water down going downstream. But at the end of the day, the requirements for ADWR is you can't have more than 50 acre feet. And so the top part of that photo is where the top of the berm was. The next dashed line is where the water flowed through as it's doing right now. And so there's 2 designs, one with a 100-foot and one with a 120-foot wide weir. And the bottom line is basically where the elevation is going to be to meet that requirement of your containment, but then still allow that water to go downstream where it's supposed to be going instead of breaking out and going into the neighborhood south of that Leslie Canyon farm.
The neighborhood that we maintain all those roads?
Yes.
Correct.
And this is Bay Acres. This is the roadway that you see is Washington, and that the vegetation that you see is going downstream towards the Whitewater draw. But currently we're at 42%, and hydrologic analysis that's determining the quantity of flow that's going through there. We're at 30% with the hydraulic analysis or the floodplain mapping, how far with the design that we're going to be proposing, what that's going to look like. And then they're at 42% of the design, creating that channel through there.
And this should be done this spring.
Yes.
This should be completed this spring. And then after we have that, we'll have a design cost, and if there's grants we can get, because this will be in the millions to construct this. It's a
And
channel.
We'll contract that out, or?
Yes, it would be contracted out. Then Upper San Pedro projects, we have Riverstone. That's phase 2 site investigation has been completed. We have a REPI grant for $900,000 to do final design and permitting. So that project is ongoing. Horseshoe Draw, this is Horseshoe Draw. We did armor the outlet pipes, these pipes here, pour the concrete here so that they're not getting undermined. And we still need to design and fix the overflow outlet structure. The Bisbee Effluent Project is on track for that's a design concept report, and that will be completed sometime this fall. Coyote Wash, we received 60% plans last month or last week. I've not looked at them yet, but it's design is 60%, so we should have completed project final design sometime this winter. We are getting ongoing with the NEPA clearance. That is ongoing. We will have a public meeting as part of the NEPA clearance. This is a flood control structure to divert water out of Coyote Wash into the old gravel pit, back into Coyote Wash to try to restore the natural hydrograph of the floodplain. So this is a project for restoration of the natural hydrograph. And then we do have some construction funds from a REPI grant of $1.5 million. Any questions?
Ms. Watkins, this is Crosby from District 1. Where is the gravel pit that we're talking about with the Coyote Wash?
Hey, I want to put you on speaker right now. Okay. You had a question for Ms. Watkins?
But basically, I would like to ask
you're on.
to
You're on.
oversee the neighborhood traffic management program as it pertains to speed bumps, and I'll get the updated version when she creates the thing.
Okay, I have you on speaker right now.
Okay. Ms. Watkins, I would like the neighborhood traffic management program section that has to do with speed bumps because people ask me about them every once in a while.
Okay, we will send that. Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Very well.
Any other questions?
He must be done.
Oh, well.
Remember the letter that we got recently from somebody in his district that said that there's 5 or 7 speed bumps in our neighborhood. Get rid of all of them but one.
Oh,
They were put in by the last supervisor.
on Cherokee.
I don't remember if it said 6th Street or not. They put them into the last
Choctaw. Cherokee or Choctaw.
last supervisor, and they need to be removed.
And equestrian. Yeah, those were done 20 years ago. Those are the first speed tables I ever created.
I didn't think we did those.
Well,
So the audio is working, it's just.
it's,
Okay.
it's back to normal.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, is there anything else from the board? I guess Tom has spoken, asked questions.
No, I butted in when I had a question.
Yeah, and I was fine too. I got in there when I needed to. All right. Well, thank you. Are you done?
Correct, yes.
Okay. That was painless as well, and about the same time frame.
I think that
Thank
your
you.
department and the highway department, solid waste, are where we get a lot of questions. And so it's very helpful to me, and I'm sure the other board members have routine updates so that we have the ability to kind of know what's going on. So we don't have to keep calling you all the time just about, individual things. We've got an idea of what's happening. So I hope we continue to do this.
We have them scheduled every quarter.
Yeah, it is helpful. And but I also appreciate when you respond quickly and I can move on to, get that information back to them. Or when you're willing, or Mr. Haverty's the same way, willing to reach out to them. And Mr. Karwachka. We just have such a good county. Our staff, especially our supervising staff, is just like care about the people. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for coming. And I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
Next meeting.
Oh, no, the next meeting will be Monday, August 21st at 10 a.m. in the Board of Supervisors hearing room for a special Board of Supervisors meeting regarding tax rates and levies. Now I will adjourn the meeting.